A Florida school district has pulled 176 books from its libraries.
The trend you've no doubt read about, the growing list of books banned in our nation's classrooms and libraries. Advocates are sounding the alarm about a set of measures that they say target teaching and writing related to LGBTQ issues, race, and more broadly, freedom of speech.
Welcome to our video. My name is Salimat and I have my two partners with me, Sara and Delaney, and in this video, we'll be talking about the book ban in the U.S. Starting off, I'll be highlighting what is a book ban in the historical context. As many of you guys are wondering, what is a book ban? Okay, a book ban is any action taken against a book based on its content and as a result of parent or community challenges, administrative decisions, or in response to direct or threatened action by lawmakers or other governmental officials that leads to a previously accessible book being either completely removed from availability to students or whether access to a book is restricted or diminished. So here are some historical context of book bans in the U.S. Book banning began in 1637. 41% banned books include the LGBTQ+ themes. The American Library Association reported a record-breaking number of attempts to ban books in 2022, which is up to 38% from the previous year. Most of the books are being pulled off the shelves, and they're either written by or about members of the LGBTQ+ community and people of color. The U.S. School Board have a broad discretion to control the material disseminated in the classroom and libraries. Legal precedent as to how the First Amendment should be considered remains vague, with the Supreme Court last ruling on the issue in 1982. With this has put an increase in book banning over the years, which has led to legal action throughout the world.
Now that you guys have heard a little bit about book banning and what it entails, I'm going to share with you some examples of book banning. So one of the first big book banning events that occurred was during the Holocaust, and this was where the Nazis were encouraging students to burn books that discussed liberal ideas or ones related to Judaism. And so many of these book bannings started out on a smaller scale, where students sought out books that related to these topics and burned them in small clusters, but then broke out into massive raids of libraries, schools, and other public facilities that held books. Although book banning does not look like this physical destruction or burning of the books right now, in 2021, many groups in the US were formed that encouraged the banning of books, and between 2021 and 2022, about 1,648 distinct books were banned. Many of these bans come from different laws that are formed that don't explicitly say that a book is to be banned, but depending on how it is interpreted, it will cause certain books to be banned. So in Florida, the Parental Rights in Education and the Don't Say Gay bill brought forth a lot of books that were to be reviewed and then banned. In 2020 in Hong Kong, new security laws were passed that required books that discussed democracy and advocated for a more democratic government were put under review and then banned because they kind of threatened the security and the government state of Hong Kong. Although book banning has been around for a really long time, the fight against it has also been around. In 1982, Banned Book Week was formed, which takes place at the last week of September, where people advocate and talk about book banning. In 2023, many libraries in New York formed campaigns and different clubs where people would read banned books and talk about them so that more people were aware. These methods of making people more aware of book banning allow for people to understand the implications that it has on both the authors, the people, and many others.
I mean, I've gotten my fair share of die, faggot, die.
You're a pedophile, you're a groomer.
Detransition today and commit yourself to a life of abstinence and moral decency.
I had another criminal complaint come in the other day about my book.
I've gotten quite enough of that.
I am an author and illustrator.
I'm a best-selling author.
According to Banned in the USA, a staggering 41% of banned books feature protagonists or prominent secondary characters who are people of color. Additionally, 22% of banned books directly address themes of race or racism, highlighting a concerning trend in the limiting of diverse perspectives. Access to books that authentically represent our diverse society is paramount. It not only allows children to see themselves in literature, but it also provides an invaluable opportunity to learn from the experiences of those who may be similar or different. School curriculums are undoubtedly political. Those in positions of power use schools to assert their dominance and beliefs, often at the expense of marginalized groups. When the education system consistently bans books featuring minority protagonists, authors, perspectives, members of these groups are left with the clear and damaging message that their stories are not important, valued, or American. Limiting the representation of diverse voices in literature not only impacts their sense of identity, but it also contributes to a broader cultural erosion. Book bans not only affect minority groups, book bans affect the quality of education for all students. Education should be a gateway to inclusivity, but by restricting exposure to vital perspectives, we deny students a comprehensive understanding of the diverse world in which they live. As we strive for a more inclusive and equitable society, let's recognize the implications of book bans on education and the voices that they silence. It's time to break down these barriers, empower students with diverse perspectives, and ensure that every child has the opportunity to learn from a broad spectrum of voices.